This is an unusual presentation for me, and I think in general for this event tonight. But I just started a new job, and so I don't have, recent project I can talk about. So I decided to talk about being a woman in data science. So it also applies to being an underrepresented minority in data science. I think a lot of things are going to resonate with, other kind of people than myself. I hope so. So it's called We're Looking for a Technical Guy, which is something that someone told me while declining me in an interview. And so navigating bias in the workplace. So I'm going to talk about myself a little bit, who I am and why I'm in this space. And then I'll tell you some tales from the interview trenches. But I didn't want to make this a negative kind of talk. So the next section, I'll give some career advice. I'm basically repurposing, some discussions I've had with mentees. I often talk with people who are looking to transition from academia into data science. And I feel like it's good to be honest and talk about, some of the things that are difficult when you're making a transition. But also, it's an awesome job to have. This is a great industry to be in. And so I think, it's good to inspire as well. Okay, so I'm a data scientist at a company called Kinaxis. In fact, I manage a data science team. Before that, I was working in a large financial institution in a R&D team within retail credit risk. And prior to that, I was doing graduate school in economics. And so I'm a social scientist that came to data science. And, while I was in grad school, I taught in statistics. And I did all kinds of things that relate so closely to what I do now. So why did I go from economics to data science? Well, I love data. Statistics, math, programming, I've always been science oriented. And in fact, one misconception about economics is that people think of it like a social science, and like there isn't a strong quant aspect, which is completely false. So a lot of the kind of modeling we do in economics is more theory based, and then we're looking to test theory to the data as opposed to starting from large data and trying to find pattern that we then might form a theory about. It's just a different approach to similar kind of questions. So I like solving real problem and having an impact. This is perhaps why I came from academia to industry, because we have shorter timelines to production in industry, meaning that the models that we build are used by people faster if they're used by people, unlike academic models where often, it takes years to publish and people may or may not ever, use your work. I really enjoy bridging the business to the technology side of operations. So usually I do really well at, translating a business problem into data and then working with technology people to turn this, data model into a usable production model, and then returning that to the business as value, right? I like teaching, mentoring, and learning. And this one sounds like a bit strange to say, but I really think that the best data science teams are diverse, not necessarily in appearance, but in thoughts and abilities. And so I think it's important to have people that come from all kinds of backgrounds, but not just, academic background, as well as, ethnic or other backgrounds. So when I transitioned from academia to data science, it was really hard for me initially to find a job. And one of my favorite questions at that time, this man looks at me and says, this is a very quantitative job. What in your background prepares you for this? Like, what makes you think that you can do this job? And I sat in that interview room and I thought, this is because he doesn't know what grad school in economics is, right? So So while I was in part of my graduate work, I did linear algebra, multi-objective optimization, Bayesian statistics, causal inference, maximum likelihood estimation, a lot of work on confidence estimation, data visualization, spatial data too. I mean, at one point I worked in a map and data library. And so this, you know, this was so troubling to be asked this kind of question, and it kind of gave me a shock. But then I thought, what can I possibly say that will change his mind, right? And this is something I'll talk about a bit later in the talk, is sometimes you just can't change people's mind, right? You sit there and you just have a terrible interview because someone had a preconceived idea about what your abilities were, whether it's because, I don't think it's because I was a woman. I think it's because I was a social scientist. But this was shocking to me, and it kind of helped me think about how I present myself and whether I care about how people think. This other one, I was a bit later in my career. I was applying to lead a technical team, and I go through all these interviews. Some of them are, there's the classic kind of like you talk to the hiring manager, and then you have a technical interview, and then you have some kind of panel interview. And I go through all these processes, and there's very intense case studies. But the technical interview was actually not technical at all. Like, nobody asked me any question that was in any way technical or difficult. We just kind of had a chat, and it left me thinking, oh, this is strange, but I kept going through the interview process, and it was a very enjoyable experience. And the business case were interesting. So I get to the end, and I'm apparently the second candidate for this job. And the hiring manager says, you were really good in terms of managerial ability, but we're really looking for a technical guy. And I paused again, just flabbergasted that he said that out loud, because this is how people express unconscious bias, but you can't actually react to it, because if you make it look like they're biased, they'll get offended. And also, I really liked this hiring manager. He was quite pleasant, and I don't think he would ever think he was sexist. I didn't think he was sexist either. But the framing of it made me look back to that very easy technical interview. I thought, like, in this case, I can work on being technical. And to be fair, they hired a physicist for this role, so pretty sure, again, it's because I'm a social scientist. But I can be technical, At the time I was building a deep learning model, I thought, it's fairly technical, I was deploying APIs and things like this. I thought, okay, well, maybe I need to better brand, the work that I do so that people see that I'm technical, but I don't think I can be a technical guy, and perhaps it's a gender neutral way to mean a person who I perceive as technical, but, we talked about, Jenny was talking about bias in AI, and I looked, this is a much simpler algorithm. It's not quite AI, but when I Googled, technical guy, this is the image that came up. And obviously, I mean, there's some resemblance, I guess, some pattern in the glasses, which, by the way, was not intentional. But no, I can't be that guy. Okay. And this is another one that I quite enjoyed. A different team at the time. I was interested in doing a transition to a different kind of industry. And I won't name the industry because it's not important. But again, as a data scientist, right? Like, this is the same. They're looking here for it's a leadership position, but with not too many people. And they really have a data problem. Like, I'm aware of this team. I know the kind of models they want to build. I know the kind of data that they're looking to leverage. And, I go in thinking I have a fair shot. And within 2 minutes, the hiring manager says, "Why would I hire you when I can get a guy with 10 years experience in the role?" again, I'm silent, and I don't know what to say to this, because this is a strange way to phrase it, right? So I focused on the 10-year experience. Here, I think possibly it's because, I'm younger, although quite frankly, I'm not that young. And so I thought, this is an experience, and this is an age situation. And I try to make a case that, if you want to solve a data problem, you should hire a data person. And perhaps the person who's been 10 years in the same role is not going to provide an innovative solution to this problem they have. Needless to say, I did not get this role. So some advice, right? Having said that, I've had a lot of privilege in my career, and I've landed always in very good teams with very good boss, very good colleagues, and I've had great mentors and people who really inspire me. And I'm, on this really exciting journey where I get to continuously learn and grow. And I'm exposed to a lot of really smart ideas and people. And, like the people in this forum today, it's so exciting to hear the talk about geospatial data. I mean, I felt, energized just listening. And so, how do you go past this? Like, how do you sit through these terrible interviews where people say really strange things to you and move forward? So my first advice is to know your strengths, right? Know yourself specifically. So a lot of people that I talk to, they're coming out of academia, and they're quite broken. It's a common experience for people to experience a lot of hardship and self-doubt as they're doing graduate degrees. And a lot of supervisors are quite mean and abusive, and for a number of reasons, people are broken. So I try to help people see, what they bring to a team. Like, what is your superpower? Like, maybe you're really good at asking questions, which means that you're always going to help other people learn, because a lot of people need to ask questions but don't, because they feel stupid asking questions. So if you're someone who asks a lot of questions, you're going to help everyone around you, and so you're going to make the team stronger, and you're going to help people learn. Maybe you're someone who's really good at coding, and you write beautifully structured, perfectly Pythonic code, and you can teach people how to build better code. But you can also help, improve the code of the team. And so, those are just some examples, but it's good to think about that. It's good to think about both the soft skill and the hard skills. What is it that you're good at? What is it that you could do better at? And just kind of, have some introspection, and then have confidence in that. Know that this is what you bring, and this is who you are. And then when you come forward, just being your best self. I mean, people are either going to go for it or not, but if they go for it, they know what they're getting. Pick your boss as well. So I know people think of interview as they are being interviewed. But in fact, you're also interviewing the people that are interviewing you, because you're trying to see yourself working for them, right? You're trying to see if this would be a good culture, if this would be a place where you would, feel respected and feel valued and feel like you're empowered to try and fail and do things differently. So, what are some things to look out for if you're a woman in data science? So if no one in the entire interview process is a woman, there's very high chance that you're going to be the only woman in your team reporting to an unbroken chain of men. And it's fine. Like, it's not necessarily a problem. Most women in data science come from male-dominated fields. And so we're kind of used to this. But, if you're looking at other places and all of a sudden, the person doing the technical interview is a female astrophysicist, maybe you can expect a bit more equality. You can expect, different kind of working condition and less of these kind of, uncomfortable interviews. So you can find out more about the team that way. But it's just good to think of these interviews in general as you are looking to see if this would be a good place to work. Because if someone is disrespectful or is, makes you feel small, you probably don't want to work for them. And you're not going to have, it's just likely that they won't give you a job, quite frankly. But also, if they do, you should think about whether you do want to work for them. Let it go. So sometimes just, people are the way they are, they have the prejudice they have. And it's really not about you. And so it's important to just bounce from these things and not take it personal. These are some biases, when we saw in the talk on AI ethics, there are some very entrenched ideas in societies that people, I feel people are trying to get better, but they're not all there, and you just move on. Being comfortable being uncomfortable is super important, because both in these kind of, the job search for a lot of people, the transition, either from academia or to industry, or, from other areas of data into data science as well. It's difficult, it takes a long time, and you're really kind of building up your own skill set and your ability as you go. And so it's important to take the time to learn things and to see these 5-10 minute increments as adding up. And these interviews too, these weird situations that you have, they're also part of the growth, right? They also help you stand on your own feet and know yourself in the end. And then something important to think about is that your career is not linear. I've already been in 3 different industries, if we think of academia as an industry. And a lot of people, have had similarly meandering paths. But it's kind of like these books. I don't know if you guys remember Choose Your Own Adventure was a book that was around in the 80s. And you would flip page. So you'd say, like, do you want to do this or that? And then you'd flip to the right page. And oh, no, I did actually. So when you were reading these books and you had them for a while, you might actually try to find all different paths that were possible. Of course, in life, we can't, try all the different paths. But it's okay to try something new and to just, some things will always be there, right? Like there are some safe choices that are always available. So it's good to take some choices, take some risks.
I think that's absolutely appalling. Like someone sitting there and saying those types of things to someone. Look, we're all human at the end of the day. There's, don't want to get political, but we're all a spectrum of various sex, and we all have our different strengths and weaknesses. I'm good at some things, I'm terrible at some things. If you do not have a diverse culture with diverse ideas, you're going to get left behind. So to that guy that was like, we're looking for a tech guy, good riddance to that guy, man. We move on, you know what I mean? I personally have no time for that type of mentality and sometimes my clients will tell me like, oh, we wanted this or that, or we want someone with this background. And, at the end of the day, we have to, deliver to our clients. But yeah, look, onwards and upwards with that guy.
It's good to talk about with, I guess, recruiters too. I think we should just talk more, openly about these things. Like it's not unusual for people to experience, really awkward situations like this when they're underrepresented somewhere. Mm-hmm. And not talking about it's not really helping anyone. Mm-hmm. Employers benefit from a more diverse, one of the ways, to go back to the AI ethics talk, one of the ways that we can catch those kind of biases. Like, I bet you there was no woman on that team that built the AI for recruitment at Amazon. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I would have called it out that, like, the training set was biased. Right? And so if they'd invested in having, like, more different people building AI, they would have more chance of catching this. And so, you know, it's something to think about, even from a fundamental society aspect like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, we're all going to bring, I think, different cultures, different races and ages. You're going to get this boiler room of different ideas and different way of looking at things. Like if you only have old white dudes looking at a problem, well, they're going to come at it at a one particular way, whereas we want to solve problems in interesting ways. And I think, yeah, definitely diversity is should be on the top of a lot of companies' agendas there. How do you deal if a person around you are bias-free, but people who are in control have a strong sense of bias that is hard to dodge?
This is kind of how society is built, right? The people in power, they all look the same. So I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, most people around me are not very biased, right? Like, I don't surround myself with people who make me feel small, but a lot of people it's at the aggregate level that the bias happens, right? But it's amplified by the fact that we don't maybe question the power relationship there. Like in most companies, as you go up, you know, you have less and less diversity, right? And
yeah, that's a problem, and I would like to think that over the coming years, things are changing. Certainly, I mean, as we're hiring I'm hiring people for North Technology people. I've got my colleague Will. He's a guy, and I'm like, I don't want a team full of guys. I want a diverse team and somebody who's going to kind of call me out and say, hey man, what about this idea? So I totally agree with you there. Diversity, inclusion, super important. And if you're going to, as I said, if you have only one type of people looking at one type of problem, you're only going to get one type of answer. But
yeah, I mean, that's why like the diversity of background in terms of you know, where you come from a science philosophy is also important, right? Because you get super cool collaboration when you put together, like, you know, like an ecologist and a physicist and an engineer, for example, right? And because they all approach the problem in a different way. Like, they'll think about it from a different tradition. They'll have they all kind of have the same sense of the kind of model they want to build, but for different reasons sometimes. And it's fascinating. Like, you get better work. You get better data scientists out of it.